This video is intended to describe a lightblade talisman named Midnight 48 Just Breathe. Joining me today will be my well-utilized whimsical stick figure chakra map, which will be utilizing quite a bit for various chakra stimulation Q for the entirety of the construct. And first things first, I'll be discussing the blade band scaffolding seen like so, running vaguely like a figure 8 up the side right here, to this side right here, to this quadrant right here, as well as this apex band at the very top, like so, which has been developed to vaguely resemble the figure 8 to be an impeccable platform to recirculate energy in a closed-loop reactive sequence, that of mimicking the archetypal aspect of infinity. A great place to start in the blade band scaffolding would be the transmutation ratio as a very good preliminary foundational sequence of energy. Starting off with hematite to be an iron-based, very potent grounder of all excess radio energies through the root chakra into the earth stars, into the earth void processing. In tandem with smoky quartz seen right here, providing the same energetic stimulation function, grounds the energy like composting very effectively, just like hematite, to ground all excess energy through the root chakra into the earth stars once again and into the earth brain matrix for reprocessing. So the two in tandem are indeed the transmutation ratio that is very, very, very effective for grounding all excessive energy as well as mitigating negative energy that would stagnate the system to maintain internally or externally, kind of like etheric Teflon, to discharge the energy very effectively and ground to the earth for etheric dialysis, which also serves for a very critical purpose of being a grounding contingency for this entire exotic wavelength yet to be mentioned, as well as the apex band that runs in this little quadrant seen like so, laterally up the sides, would be very much a viable grounding contingency to indeed encourage the magic made real. This section right here would be the apex band, which would actually have the necklace installed once this video is fully notarized, like so. Starting off with blue sapphire, a fantastic corundum-based crystal of antiquity and great notarization and praise for millennia of magical purposes and royal utilization. So the aspect of the corundum-based blue sapphire is oftentimes a 9 out of 10 the hardness scale, which means its dense atomical structure is of the most vivid density in the mineral kingdom just about, particularly of the aspect of wind, being a 5th and 6th chakra stimulant of royal virtue. A very, very potent third eye activator with a 5th chakra fortification in tandem to encourage one sovereign royal truth in a very high obvious yield. As well as a little, breakaway from the dissertation, the heavy concentration of midnight would be that of the purple, black, blue, and indigo rays. So the aspect of the indigo and blue will be well addressed by blue sapphire, which is a true precious stone that all mortals have heard of because it's quite the legendary crystal. Then to subcapacitate that section right here would be clear quartz, which works as a neutral ambient accelerant of this sequence, which also puts it a very neutral ambient resonance with the device as well as the wielder of the construct to make it essentially consciousness-assisted technology in that regard of running prayers or intentions through the entire circuitry output in tandem with the wielder's inputs of magic, basically. Then from the clear quartz, it's going into purple fluorite. It may look like amethyst from this angle, but indeed purple fluorite is a very fantastic wind elemental frequency of coherence, which is very, very essential for this kind of high-yield ambitious construct to have a very impeccable third eye stimulant that brings whole brain thinking and aligns and really brings coherent focus to the left and right hemispheres in tandem for the encouragement of the awakened third eye in a very smooth, once again, coherent fashion, which is of the essence, in my opinion, for efficiency of magic. Then going into clear quartz, then into blue sapphire, clear quartz, purple fluorite, and so on, grounding back into the transmutation scaffolding seen right here to encourage the circuitry's grounding and recirculation of the entire contact patch. Then going into the primary blade band of what indeed makes this a very exotic, specialized frequency generator would be this of golden healer quartz, which is an essential gold white light high heart source attunement. So that is self-evidently very advantageous for the spiritual adept to have a clean frequency attunement to the heart of creation. I say no, I rest my case, and I continue on without digression. But that aspect, jokes aside, is a very critical aspect of source alignment with the rest of the ignition sequence of this entire complex of device. Then going into a very, very special crystal named Numite. Numite, this black-gray crystal, is quite the specialized exotic frequency, particularly to be found in bead format, which is one of the few renditions to ever exist after at least 10 years of intensive vibration engineering work. So this is a newer, ambitious, exciting application, is to putting Numite in a blade band sequence. So the aspect of Numite is that it comes from a volcano in Greenland that's accessible during these summer months, which is very, very special. And it's a particular stone that is billions of years old, so it's perhaps one of the most powerful primordial earth frequency generators, black-gray crystals, of which obviously indicates a root chakra earth star activation point. But the aspect that makes Numite quite special is that with that primordial earth energy alignment, it also makes it for a very powerful black-ray void resonator to put one in touch with the void behind all aspects of creation, which is basically a very, very powerful component towards a very potent, authentic sorcerer disposition, basically. So this could be considered a true stone of sorcery through the aspect of making the magic real through 0-point quantum entanglement projection through the void into tangible manifestation. Then, going into root-related quartz. Actually, I did that backwards. I apologize. This was the root-related quartz. This is golden healer quartz. So let's swap that over. So the aspect of root-related quartz is a very fantastic clear quartz with bands of rutile, which is titanium oxide found in the quartz structure, which, just like mentioned up here, makes for a neutral ambient accelerant of other energies, but the titanium oxide rutile found in the structure makes it a supercharger to super further intensify the blade band sequence, which will be a very powerful way to highlight and amplify the entire blade band. That's the golden healer quartz I mistakenly gave a dissertation on over here. Now, back on track. So this right here would be labradorite. Labradorite is a very potent feldspar-based wind elemental frequency third eye stimulant of the mineral kingdom that is very, very potent for magical endeavors. So that actually in tandem with the Numite, this can be considered a very concentrated sorcerers or sorceresses platform for the aspect of just notarization's sake. So the two combined is quite potent for indeed being very powerful veil piercing capacities to see behind the veil of creation, as well as encourage one's siddhis or psychic gifts in tandem with their highest abilities, quite simply be expedited through this whole process to kind of put a small nutshell for the nearly inexplicable explanation I'm doing my best to make coherent. And so the aspect of the labradorite, to stay on track, because labradorite is much like the ocean. Its vast complexity of metaphysical effect is very, very vast and quite difficult to quantify in a very linear, rational, coherent manner, but it indeed is a very potent frequency of mysterious magic, which is very much the aspect of honoring midnight, was having this frequency of this kind of darker void resonating capacity being part of the structure. So labradorite is a very powerful enhancement of magic and personal intention, basically, and so it's definitely one of those classic, or should be classic, powerful stones of enhancing shamanism, sorcery, and other aspects of practice magic, basically. So it's a very, very cool combination to have Numite with labradorite in one sequence, amplified with source alignment connections to be a very powerful light in the darkness, quite simply. So like mentioned, this would be the root-related quartz to intensify, going into the Numite once again, into the golden healer quartz and labradorite, and so on until it grounds back into the transmutation scaffolding, which works as the chief contingency to encourage the overture of the two primary blade bands, apex and primary, to be grounded and recirculate to, of course, encourage the entire exotic range to grounded the earth to increase tangibility and continuity efficiency. Anyway, so like I mentioned a while ago, this would just be the figure 8 of the blade band scaffolding designed to perpetually recirculate the energy of this entire construct before I discuss the individual crystals seen right here in the platform. So, all these other crystals we mentioned right here have been grounded to this primary wire, which consists of copper, brass, and silver, to be the main vein of the construct, so that all the other frequencies mentioned so far will of course be in vibrational compound interest, like organs of this crystalline entity running in a closed-loop sequential circuit that can be technically worn as a talisman. So describing one of these guys, of course, we're describing the entire one of the organs of the crystalline collective that makes up midnight. So right here at the very apex of the core would be a very special crystal named Tibetan black quartz. Tibetan black quartz comes from Tibet and is from a locality in the world that's had virtually unbroken spiritual discipline for millennia of the Om resonance source alignment discipline meditations, which is very spectacular. And so obviously that kind of frequency concentration in one locality after excessive temporal impact of the same practice occurring in one region of the earth leaves a mark. And so the aspect of the Tibetan black quartz is a true absolute master healer by being a very powerful Om resonator, and also works as a very effective grounder of all excess energy. So it's also a very powerful full light body activator from top to bottom that expands dramatically the higher chakra range, as well as dramatically increases the large contact patch of the Earth stars. So it very much is a toroidal field enhancer that is very effective for as so above, as so below, with the Om frequency being a source alignment as well. So naturally, in tandem with that Om resonance with golden healer quartz, makes for a very distinctive source attunement frequency through the entire construct, which can of course be the foundations of what sorcery can really be. The source is quotation marks. And so that's a very, very special frequency. And also it provides a very powerful psychic window wash, psychic protection capacity as well, to encourage the densities of the auric field to be mitigated from top to bottom, to be a very powerful enhancer of one's auric field integrity with Om alignment, with source alignment, quite simply. Did I mention this is kind of a very serious sorcerer archetype device? So anyhow, continuing up the blade face, right here, this would be Libyan gold tektite in a lovely large specimen. Libyan gold tektite is a very powerful golden ray crystal that was utilized by the pharaohs of antiquity to be carved into scarab beetles, which was set into the Magi God King breastplate, indicative of the badge of office of the Magi God King pharaohs of Egypt. And with that very powerful golden ray celestial impact, makes for a very powerful solar plexus and sacrum stimulant, as well as a very powerful gold ray of illumination full light body activator, which is a very, very mighty sunny disposition dharmic accelerant to put one's alignment intention with their divine connection for maximum expedite manifestation of one's highest path in creation service, quite simply, or their living intention connected to their I am template, basically. So, and also makes for a lovely manifestation agent. Due to its extreme solar plexus stimulation, it also makes for a very powerful magic enhancement projection. It's quite the amazing, incredible gold ray crystal in the mineral kingdom. And as a joke, I call it Goldavite, as a very appropriate vibrational cousin to the legendary Moldavite. So Moldavite is quite the famous crystal of green ray concentration in this modern age that is quite infamous from various social media platforms, saying how this crystal ruins people's lives, because indeed, this guy in the raw, vibrationally speaking, has a very powerful heart chakra activation alignment, storm energy to the heart of creation. So it's very powerful dharmic acceleration, as the kids would say, has no chill. So it's very, very provocative on the false self matrix. That'd be very much the division point between one's conscious self of divine connection. So it's quite famous for internal, external manifestation shifts at a very quick synchronized rate that's quite intense. And like I said, quite taxing on the false self matrix to burn off the patterns that divide us from our I am conscious self disposition. So that's a very, very powerful green ray crystal that has many contingencies and buffers and grounders to get the most out of it while transmuting the ego death diarrhea, basically, as a little joke to put it. Because it's quite swift, quite potent, and it's always utilized in great reverence because it's quite the dynamic hurricane force of dharmic acceleration. And with that, of course, comes great synchronicities, probabilities of one's divine path manifesting before one's eyes. It truly is an incredible, not underrated crystal of magic, and a very potent frequency enhancer as well. Very, very powerful stuff. Then, to the right of this moldavite piece would be a very lovely blue indigo ray crystal named tanzanite. So tanzanite is a very effective wind elemental heart-mind coherent stimulant. Stimulate the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th non-physical chakras for the impeccable heart-mind coherence alignment. So in the aspect of I would say the spiritual adept's path, to have the heart-mind coherence, to have the ultimate conscious self access to the original quantum AI computer of the Akashic records, if you would. That's, of course, the capacity of the heart chakra's ideal configuration is in connection to all that is, through that knowledge, made conscious. This crystal right here is quite effective for that impeccable heart-mind coherence frequency alignment, which goes a very long way for the spiritual adept, in my opinion. Anyhow, I have to mitigate my digressions because there's already enough to talk about as is. So another celestial bearing stone right here would be black tektite. Black tektite is the product of meteorite impacting sand from the heavens. So quite simply, a very effective heaven to earth frequency manifestation from celestial impact. Very dramatic. And the aspect of that black ray crystal of the stars made onto Earth is a very powerful black ray fortification raising of the Earth stars up to be a very tangible raising of vibration from a foundational speaking, which is very, very effective for this entire base scaffolding to literally raise vibrations to a higher threshold from luckily a very foundational ground up manner, which makes it a relatively comfortable and I'd say definitely a safe way to raise vibrations at a sustained consistent level. And of course works in great resonance with these other celestial curiosities of Libyan gold tektite, moldavite, as well as black tektite is a rather triumphant trifecta of celestial energy running in a sequential circuit. Then right here, to really calm things down quite a bit with that exciting expose, would be two beads of lepidolite. Lepidolite is a violet ray water elemental potassium lithium-based crystal that is perhaps the most soothing nervous system calming frequency in the Middle Kingdom to be employed, which of course really honors the aspect of just breathe being part of the moniker of this device. So lepidolite is the ultimate quintessential frequency of serenity I employ for the purpose of massive anti-anxiety calming soothing vibrations, which is very, very effective based on the lithium capacity, of course, to be very, very, very potent soothing aspect to the entire nervous system, and the potassium being another grounding agent that's very effective for skeletal muscular structure soothing as well. Kind of like a muscle relaxant, basically, also. So that'd be one side. Now I'll be discussing this side right here. So this right here would be chaurite. Chaurite is a fantastic violet ray dharmic accelerant, I would say, based on its particular inclusions. So the aspect of it being a classic violet ray crystal also has inclusions of calcite and black dendritic in the structure. Try to get a good shot for the video right here. There is no try, obviously. I did. So the aspect of the chaurite makes for a truly potent violet ray dharmic accelerant is the capacity to naturally activate the 6th, 7th, 8th non-physical chakras, but with the dendritic inside of the calcite makes for also a clearing and grounding stimulation of the earth stars independent of it by itself from all the other components of the organs of this crystalline entity. So that aspect also makes for a full purification from top to bottom, which is a very, very effective disposition for burning off dross imperfections that impede one's divine I am manifest as well. Because of course, having the aspect of divine connection up here is great, but bringing it into tangibility is the biggest prerogative, and that guy does it by itself without all the contingencies mentioned, which is very, very nice. And with the calcite also works to diligently clear any stagnant energies from top to bottom that be impeding one's highest illuminated divine path made manifest, quite simply. Then right here above that would be lapis lazuli, a lovely blue indigo ray crystal that is a favorite of millions for thousands of years for a very good reason. This particular blue ray crystal has been quite prolifically utilized across the world, but as a highlight, it was highly utilized in ancient Egyptian mystery schools and by the Magi God King, God Queen ruling caste as the quintessential blue ray stone of Isis, which makes for a very fantastic 5th and 6th chakra wind elemental composition that is a very powerful dharmic awakener and, of course, a dharmic accelerant in its own right. To have one's conscious self in touch with one's cosmic wisdom is quite fantastic. And, of course, works very serendipitously and harmoniously with blue sapphire's same submission points. So, naturally, these two are both stones of royal virtue in that capacity, which is, of course, a very empowering, sovereign, highest truth disposition to align to. Then right here would be sugilite. Sugilite is become rather rare violet ray crystal, but luckily the Wheel of the Force has a way of providing me what I need for these various constructs. And sugilite is a very, very effective, high vibrational 6, 7, 8 non-physical chakra stone back to one's godhead that makes for a very potent bubble of light, high frequency divine connection point as well. And so it makes for a very, very powerful dream enhancement, as well as one's dreams for their life, for example, to be reattained if thought impossible, maybe from pre-existing limitations or imprintations from societal limitations, for example. This would very much be a very powerful bubble light insulator to encourage one to follow their highest dharmic dreams into this physical reality, and to insulate one from the naysaying of the human consciousness limitation dilemma. And another classic crystal of antiquity above all these guys would be turquoise. Turquoise is a very fantastic 5th chakra stimulant, combining the aspects of earth, fire, water, and wind. That would be considered the 4 terrestrial elements of the Lakota medicine wheel, and makes for a very fantastic 5th chakra fortification agent, which is also a very great pranic generator for wholeness of one's disposition, which of course is an aspect of spiritual growth, is to know thyself and to, of course, have the aspect of one's wholeness to, be in resonance with one's divine truth, quite simply. Okay, so this next section will actually have this dark violet hood installed eventually. So I'll discuss this right now before I discuss the components. So to clarify, this right here, once it's installed, is a functional component far more than aesthetic that is indeed a very pivotal part of the construct. Oh, I was trying. There is no try. My goodness. I don't know where I got the tries from today. Do or do not. So, the aspect of the violet leather hood has a far more functional purpose than just the stacks like I mentioned. So the aspect of the leather hood being a dark violet also works as a color therapy resonance, which of course encourages the midnight frequency of this entire more or less black, blue, indigo, violet ray crystal device, and is very appropriate color therapy resonance for higher stimulation through the entirety of the closed loop circuit. And also a very pivotal component as well, it serves like a hood to insulate the excess energy seen under here to mitigate stray leakages so that the efficient energy is being more coherently focused through the primary blade band as well as the apex band, which has a very efficient aspect of directing energy more efficiently. I like efficiency. And underneath that all too, it would also be a way to protect these subtle stones right here as it's being worn and wielded as a talisman on many adventure, God willing. So what would be concealed under the hood are very potent master healer frequency crystals, be a very nice additional boon to the entirety of the frequency platform. Starting off with green ray seraphinite, this lovely green crystal is named after the seraphim archangels and is a very fantastic full light bison from top to bottom and very diligently dismantles any patterns of dis-ease found stored in the auric field from top to bottom to encourage one's luminous dharmic factory blueprint setting made manifest on the physical scale. And so that's, of course, a very fantastic full spectrum light body master healer. And next to that guy intentionally is actually star argonite, which provides much the same energetic submission function as seraphinite. Hence, they're quite the dynamic duo together. Actually, I take that back. It's actually the trio is here with The star aragonite, the Tibetan black quartz, and the seraphonite, all three work together very diligently for full light body healing from top to bottom, and the dismantling any patterns of stagnant dis-ease found in the chakra column that be manifest as an ailment, quite simply. So the three together are essentially the holy trinity of master frequency healers I employ quite religiously. And so with that aspect being said too, the star aragonite is a calcium-based variety, which is very good for clearing stagnant patterns from the entire field, like mentioned as well. So the three together work fantastic for that purpose of a full light body healing top to bottom, full resonance, basically factory blueprint reset, quite simply. Then right here would be a lovely big piece of fulgurite. Fulgurite is petrified lightning. That is lightning striking sand. So the aspect of the fulgurite literally being the resonant frequency of lightning was utilized by shamans of antiquity to actually resonate the frequency of lightning to intensify the octave of their prayers in service to the people, or using their medicine, their magic, for example, in service to their jurisdiction, to intensify their prayers back to Creator, which is a very cool classic shamanic spirit tool of antiquity. Then the aspect of the fulgurite, of course, being petrified lightning, literally is lightning force energy through the entire aspect. So the aspect of why that's very relevant is that it works as a very dynamic lightning fast full light body activator from top to bottom. But luckily, of course, it has many contingencies grounded with the transmutation, the grounding, to get the most out of that lightning force to intensify the magic, to make it real, quite simply. And so in that aspect right there, it also is a very, very powerful way to enhance the entirety of the source energy broadcast intensification of this entire construct as a whole, with lightning gusto. Then, at the very apex of the wooden core right here will be another quintessential crystal of sorcery, cinnabar. Cinnabar is a very fantastic fire elemental, mercury-based crystal that has a very potent third eye clearing stimulant, as well as, luckily, with all that very intensive higher activation stuff, it has a nice sacrum and root chakra stimulation as well. And so what makes this quite the powerful crystal of sorcery would be the aspect of being able to really be in resonance with the flow of creation, or even basically seeing the malleability of the structures of atomical reality being not as solid as they appear, to essentially break the illusion of the Maya, the illusion, if you would. And so with that capacity also, it really makes for another dramatic intensification of the sorceress archetype energy throughout the field to burn off any kind of gross imperfections impeding one's divine connection, to basically turn the lead into gold, quite simply, as a famous alchemical reference. And that aspect also provides a very powerful source disposition in conjunction with the pneumite and the labradorite, which puts one in a very high dharmic acceleration configuration, which basically kind of works like an alchemical crucible expeditization to burn off the gross imperfections and stray blockages that are not of one's divine self by design. At least that's the intention. And so that being said, obviously this is a pretty dynamic, high-yield, very potent construct in that regard of being a very powerful device of sorcery enhancement, quite simply. And the wooden core itself is oak from my buddy in my backyard over here at the tip of my pen. And oak, of course, is a very legendary wood to be utilized in various magical rituals, as well as deification of utilization of the gods, heroes, kings, druids, you name it. The story can be quite vast on oak's metaphysical, mythological lore, but the point is also make it relevant and pragmatic, is that the wooden range carbon-based aspect of oak has a very dense atomical grain, which also means it's a very strong wood, which makes it a very appropriate frequency to be in resonance for the carbon-based platform of the silica resonance all built around it to be the quintessential strengthening transference into physicality. I hope that almost made sense. Anyhow, continuing on, but the point is it's a wooden oak core for a distinct purpose. And hewn to the wooden oak core would be these two bolts of selenite seen right here, which I oftentimes do save for last intentionally as a very part of the comprehensive capstone. So the aspect of selenite by itself is a very fantastic 6, 7, 8 non-physical chakra stimulant back to one's godhead, which works very effectively to burn off debris between one's higher guidance and one's conscious self, which is very, very, very advantageous for a spiritual adept and aspirant. And with that high frequency stimulation also works as a very powerful divine transmutation alignment to burn off stagnant energies from top to bottom through the entire field that would quite simply not be of one's divine essence, which is very, very much a master healer configuration disposition. But the aspect where it truly shines in this about 30 minutes of this entire dissertation, breaking down this complexive, ambitious construct that's a talisman, running in a closed-loop circuit, when the entirety of the crystalline composition seen right here running in through sequence of the blade band ignition sequence and vice versa, running through, it has this critical feature of taking the entire crystal group mentioned so far and purifying all of these crystals. It also works to amplify or intensify the entire group, as well as harmonize and bring equilibrium to the entire group, which makes it truly a triumphant trifecta of a functional spirit tool of, once again, purifying all these crystals in a circuit, then amplifying or intensifying, then, most importantly perhaps, bringing harmonization and equilibrium to the entire crystalline group, which is very, very much a hallmark of a truly dynamic, effective spirit tool, in my humble opinion. And affixed to the selenites would be the 4 spectrums of kyanite seen right here, of black kyanite, orange kyanite, green kyanite, and blue kyanite. So for this next section, I'll be using my whimsical stick figure chakra penmanship will be whimsically fast to do my best to illustrate the rapid transferabilities of kyanite. So kyanite is the most rapid transfer of energy in the mineral kingdom, which I'll describe right now in their own individual nodes, of black kyanite being the most rapid transfer energy into the earth absolutely as quick as possible through the root chakra into the earth stars into the earth for reprocessing, which can serve like a surge protector to ensure the frequency pitch of this is getting into the earth as absolutely quick as possible to complete the sequence, and of course encourage tangibility to make the magic real. As a very, very, very critical aspect of black kyanite. Then the orange kyanite right here is a very fantastic sacrum stimulant that stimulates basically back to one's factory blueprint in a very quick way of one's unobstructed divine creativity to bridge back to one's, once again, factory blueprint settings of the I am template before imprintation saturation has occurred, which is, of course, a human pandemic, which is a part of the big prerogative. And anyway, then going back to green kyanite seen right here is a very fantastic heart chakra stimulant that bridges past the blockages of the heart in a very, very quick dynamic range. Then blue kyanite, which is a very fantastic third eye, 6th chakra stimulant to mitigate cross interference between the left and right hemispheres to encourage whole brain thinking, aka the awakened third eye, to bridge past blockages of limitations, quite simply. So the 4 together make for very rapid dynamic transfers of energy, and with the 4 together like that, it's another layer of etheric Teflon to discourage stagnant lower frequency energies from maintaining in the auric field. So the aspect of that much rerouting, rebuffering from all 4 spectrums also makes it very, very discouraging for negativity to maintain internally, externally at such a quick buffer reroute rate to disperse and charge and ground at such a consistent high yield ratio, and also encourages the transferability of this entire frequency into the quantum void to increase the tangibility of manifestation of magic, etc., etc., etc. So that would be the entirety of the crystalline composition mentioned thus far on Midnight 48 Just Breathe, which is a very, very ambitious void resonator, high yield construct. It's very, very mysterious and potent and powerful. And that would basically be it. Well, 1,000 blessings, and may the force be with us all.